Oh boy, that Trump and Elon breakup kind of shook the market a little bit, didn't it? But don't worry, we still here. And the best part is the people behind the networks, they're still building. So much so, it is now attracting attention of major tech giants. Apple, Google, Uber, and even X have expressed interest in getting into the stablecoin game. Now, with what we know about recent changes to the Stablecoin Genius Act, how are they going to pull that off? Another story that popped up over the weekend, crypto analytics firm Nansen has reported that Algoran has recorded the highest increase in active wallets to start the month. Now, with that, we obviously got to look back into the Algoran ecosystem and figure out exactly what's going on. We know a lot of developments have come to the surface. These numbers show that the activity is starting to hit the chain. And then lastly, we're going to turn our attention to the institutional side. NASDAQ, their official HashDex US crypto ETF, well, they filed with the SEC to propose a rule change. See, currently they can only hold Bitcoin and Ethereum in the ETF directly. And what they've been doing is essentially using the Bitcoin and Ethereum holdings as a proxy for the other digital assets that they look to track. Well, this proposed rule change will allow them to directly invest in digital assets like a Solana, a Stellar, XRP, and Cardano. So this is a story that we definitely need to follow, and we have a date for when the decision will be made by the SEC. So, got a lot to talk about in today's episode. If you are new, welcome. My name is Wade. You're listening to another edition of the DHN Crypto Podcast. I've been in this space since 2019, and I've researched a boatload of assets. But the number one reason I sit at this desk, in front of this camera, next to this eloquent microphone, is to share all that knowledge with you. All I'm asking is, if you find value at any point, just hit that subscribe button for me. Now, let's hop over to the terminal so we can get this show started. First, I got to share with you the official DHN Research blockchain library. This is a collection of educational materials that will get you started in the crypto space. Simply put, it points you to the fundamentals of blockchain. It points you to the top 100 utility-driven networks, as well as the extra new financial system master sheet if you really want to dig deep into your crypto research. Another way to support the channel, guys, you can try out one of our affiliates, Uphold, that's an exchange partner, SafePal, that's our cold wallet partner, and then Intellectia AI. It's a newer company that I'm working with. You guys know I really don't do price predictions, market analysis, things like that. But Intellectia provides AI-driven market insights. So if you are a trader and you're looking to add another tool to your toolkit that is AI-based, because we know these AI tools, they are a trend, check out Intellectia AI. And then, of course, guys, if you're wondering, we do have merch. You've seen the merch shelf under the videos, and it's on the front page of the channel. If you want, go and check out some of the styles that we got. So with that, let's get into the show, guys. Like I said, tech titans like Apple, Google, Airbnb, and X are exploring stablecoin payments. Now, this is courtesy of a report from Fortune magazine, where they spoke to representatives from these companies and asked their take on stablecoins. Now, in the Fortune report, names like Airbnb and Apple did not directly respond to comment. So as it stands right now, for Apple and Airbnb, it's mainly speculation and they're in the research phase, which is still good. When you think about how Apple or Airbnb can implement stablecoins, it will all fall down to cost effectiveness. Can they reduce the cost of sending money across borders? As a matter of fact, we're going to jump to a clip in a few moments. Uber CEO basically explaining that exact same thing at a Bloomberg conference. But these early conversations, guys, indicate that definitely the interest is there. And I can also imagine for a company like Airbnb, the setup with Airbnb, I understand that the relationship between the host and the people coming to stay at the location, it's very sacred. I could see stablecoins as being another transaction method, secure transaction method to expand Airbnb's their host, their market base to even more exotic locations, which is something that Airbnb has been leaning towards in recent years because of rising competition from names like Verbo, which are just selling rentals, right? In exotic locations. And then you have others that I believe offer themed sort of stays and vacays. So it's definitely a competitive landscape that Airbnb has to traverse through. So I think stablecoins for them specifically would be very interesting. Apple, on the other hand, whoa boy, a stablecoin integrated into Apple Pay, or for that matter, Google Pay, would be pretty interesting. Which one would they use? Considering all of the flack that they gave Uniswap a few years ago, I would be completely surprised, shocked to see Tether next to an Apple logo, right? Obviously, they may choose USDC, but we don't know. Let's jump to this clip, though, that we have courtesy of Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi. Excuse me if I butchered that. I tried several times before I turned the camera on. But we're going to jump to this clip here. And I want you to hear how Uber would implement a stablecoin.
I understand that you are considering stablecoin as a vehicle for Uber. Talk about where your considerations are and how that might benefit your business.
Yeah, we're still in the study phase, I'd say, but I think stablecoin is one of the, for me, more interesting instantiations of crypto that has a practical benefit other than crypto's store value. You know, obviously, you can have your opinions on Bitcoin, but it's a proven commodity. And you know, people have different opinions on where it's going. But I do think that stablecoin is quite promising, especially for global companies that are moving money around globally to create a mechanism for us to essentially reduce costs.
To reduce costs. That is the biggest value driver, the most attractive component that enterprises, companies, brands like Uber are interested in when it comes to stablecoins. To the point of Uber, I could also see somewhere down the line, maybe a year, 2 years from now, DoorDash starting to ramp up the conversation around stablecoins, because DoorDash's architecture, man, it's impressive. It is truly impressive. And I know one of the biggest issues right now, especially in the gig economy, and especially when we're talking about Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub, things like that, these drivers not getting paid. Watched a clip online the other day, man. DoorDash driver makes the delivery. Well, father orders some groceries for his daughter. Delivery gets made. Dasher gets his tip. Now, all of the tips are done electronically, and in the app, it tells you 100% of your tip goes to your Dasher. Father does the tip. Pretty substantial tip. Figured it was okay. This driver wanted the tip in cash. So the driver came back to the house armed. All right. Long story short, the father, of course, protected his home, disarmed this driver, ended up with the gun, and then got him up off his property. I feel as though all of that could have been avoided if there was just a more improved payment mechanism, because that seems to be the real problem here. Even though when we tip on our end and it tells us 100% is going to the Dasher, something tells me that there is another step in between the Dasher getting that tip along with their other payments. Okay. Of course, more study would need to be had, but I know companies like Uber, DoorDash, they have been receiving a lot of flack over the last few years for that very reason. If you implement a stablecoin, you could then increase the amount of drivers that you have, because now you can bring in drivers from different locations who may not necessarily be able to access a US dollar bank account. That's when the game gets changed. And then additionally, for the existing drivers that, let's say Uber has to pay, well, they do. Uber has to pay drivers in countries all over the world here. You introduce USDC or Tether, okay? Because Tether's got the numbers right now. You introduce one of those stable coins, you immediately, almost overnight, improve the efficiency of your financial infrastructure. So I truly believe that one, Circle going public triggered something. Triggered a whole lot of people, ladies and gentlemen. And it's already setting records. And yes, I did grab some through Robinhood. All right. I only got one share. Full disclosure, I only got one share. But that one share is now already worth 3 times what I paid for it. And I don't plan on selling. I do not plan on selling. I'm going to hold this sucker until Robinhood allows me to put it into my IRA accounts, because I truly believe Circle is going to have a lasting impact on this market. Looking back, this is the second major IPO we've had in the last 5 years. Now, I know I'm aware of blockchain mining companies that have gone public and other names like that. But as far as needle movers, as far as companies who I was able to watch build momentum in the space, it's only been Coinbase and Circle. And that's interesting because we have the major exchange that put everything on the map, and then the major stablecoin that is currently putting everything on the map. And as of this morning, the guys over at Gemini, Winklevoss Brothers, they've announced that they're getting ready to put the paperwork in for their IPO. Are we about to enter the IPO phase for a blockchain? That'd be very interesting, guys, because to be quite honest with you, crypto-related stocks, crypto-related ETFs, and I'll emphasize this point later, more later on, this is the easiest way to get involved with the market. Easiest ways. Now, we mentioned the Genius Stablecoin Act, the changes that were being made. One of them that stood out was the restrictions of non-financial public companies issuing stablecoins. So we have a very interesting conversation being had here. Circle goes public. This triggers a response in the industry. Now we got big tech companies, large enterprises interested in stablecoins. However, coming from the government side, they're trying to establish some sort of guardrails to prevent these tech companies from issuing their own stablecoins and potentially creating a monopoly in the market like Facebook was going to do with Diem, now known as Libra, a few years ago. This will essentially force companies like a Google, Uber, Apple, X to the already established public networks that run these stablecoins, or the only publicly listed financial stablecoin issuer in Circle. And that raises another question. What will Tether do in response to this? Because someone asked Paula Ardonio, Tether CEO, the other day, what would you guys do in an IPO situation? Measurements come out, their evaluation would have been north of $500 billion. He said that ain't enough. What? Brother. Okay, look, Tether CEO, this man is a renegade, and I'm starting to love it. All right. Now, to the point though, going back to the big tech companies being restricted, okay? Non-financial publicly listed companies from issuing stablecoins. We already know Google publicly listed. Google also has a universal ledger that they deployed earlier this year. We covered the story alongside the CME group. They look to introduce tokenization technology to enhance capital market efficiency. My question is, again, if that restriction goes through, how are they going to pivot? In Google's case, it's very interesting because they have been indexing blockchain data since 2018. With the data that they have, they could definitely pick the right chain. They could definitely pick the right chain is what I'm getting at here. So I like this story. I really do. I like this conversation because now the tech giants are moving into the space. Circle going public triggered something. We have CEOs from companies like Uber now coming out and publicly expressing some sort of interest towards stablecoins. Bottom line is this. Even though these conversations are early, I believe this is the beginning of a wave of stablecoin adoption between now and 2030. And if the Genius Act gets voted on later this month and it gets passed with those new changes in it, then that is going to drive all of the interest from tech giants into a very small pocket of networks here. Either USDT or USDC. It really don't matter. The pocket of public networks that support either one of these stable coins, including Paxos, let's not forget about them. But the networks that support these public stable coins is a very, very small pocket. Very small pocket. And I truly believe that as things begin to go our way, that will have a tremendous impact on the next cycle, on the next leg up in this cycle. So with that, guys, let's move on and talk about one of the networks that does support both of these stable coins. We're talking about Algoran, Nansen analytics firm for crypto, been around a number of years. They have reported that Algoran has recorded the highest increase in active addresses for the first 7 days in June. This is very impressive, guys. You can see here change over the last 7 days, 72%. That's about a 12% lead over mega chain Avalanche when it comes to increase in active addresses. So what these numbers indicate is, and I would assume a lot of this data is tapering off of activity in May as well, kind of attaching it. But this data is showing that recent activity, utility-driven activity on Algoran is creating an impact, or it's driving users to the network. And when we talk about what those recent developments were, well, we know Para Wallet, which is the flagship wallet for the Algoran ecosystem. They launched their debit card in collaboration with Immersive as well as MasterCard. It launched in the EU first, and you can see here UK, Germany, Spain, Italy, New Zealand. I'm not saying this contributed to the total increase, but with this launching in the last couple of weeks, it is very easy to say this contributed. Now, more recent news, what we did get was German tokenization platform Midas has introduced a T-bill token on Algoran. And I'm pretty sure if you looked up the data of users or people buying this T-bill, that would be a pretty substantial number and would also gives us an indication towards the increase in the active wallets. So I like seeing this in Algoran, guys, because Algoran does not make a lot of noise. We know that. All right. It's the equivalent of holding a Maserati. All right. Very fancy, very streamlined, futuristic, cutting edge, all of that. But you only going to see 7 in your lifetime. Okay. Unicorn status, I guess they call that. But another metric here, and this is something I have been tracking for a minute. If you have not heard of a website called Token Terminal, it's in the starter kit. This platform is becoming my go-to for financial information around these networks. And up to this point, because I want to say this company has just come around in the last 3 to 4 years. We did not have financial data, financial reports on these crypto projects. And now we're starting to get them. You can see in the last 90 days, cumulative revenue for Algoran has exceeded 60 grand. Okay, we're not blowing anything out of the water with $60,000. But the fact that they were able to generate $60,000 shows something. And again, this is the earliest we're recording this information. Obviously, compared to chains like Solana, Tron, Ethereum, yeah, blowing them out the water. It's blowing Algoran out the water. I get that. But you can see when compared to other layer one blockchains, that's more revenue in the last 90 days than a Polkadot, Peak Network, Multiverse X. These are much bigger, higher market cap networks here, folks. Well, with the exception of Peak. But I think sources of data like this from Token Terminal are really going to have an impact on the market. And we will be tracking this. So to ask the question of, all right, yes, Algoran started the month of June with the highest increase of active wallets. But where did that energy come from? I would assume that it's coming from adoptions such as the Para card launch, as well as additional interest from the institutional players, thanks to Midas and their introduction of the MT bill on Algoran. In addition to that, everything else that Algoran has already put in place over the last few years, it's now starting to generate revenue. So that you can't get mad at, guys. Now, with that, before we move forward, y'all know what time it is. We got to take a little break here. But when we get back, we're going to be talking about World Liberty Financial, a little bit of drama coming out of their ecosystem, as well as a little bit of blockchain gaming. And then, of course, we're going to wrap with the big story, the inclusion of Stellar, XRP, and others into an official NASDAQ crypto ETF. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, I got a quick message for you. Let's say you're looking to buy some crypto, like the ones mentioned in this video. Consider using our crypto exchange partner, Uphold. With Uphold, you get access to more than 200 crypto assets through its simple-to-use trading platform. Uphold has been around more than a decade, so it is a name you can trust. With over $2 billion in reserves and $44 billion in trading volume, I've yet to lose a trade on Uphold. To the more experienced investor out there, Uphold also has a line of precious metals and national currencies for more diversification. For me, I'm having fun using Uphold's baskets tool. Uphold lets us set aside a certain amount of money to invest in different sectors of crypto. With one click, you can diversify into the big three, meme coins, or the financial assets like Hedera, Stellar, and XTC. But listen, crypto assets are very volatile, and it is always best to manage your risk and do your own research before using any platform. I recommend Uphold because before I was an affiliate, I was and still am a user. So if you use the link below, it helps support the channel. I want to thank you in advance.
So, welcome back to the show, guys. Trump family makes peace with wallet team post public fallout. So, over the weekend, well, I guess over the last couple of weeks, Magic Eden and the team behind Trump Coin announced that they would create a wallet. This wallet was supposedly backed by the Trump family directly, but Eric Trump came out and stated, no, that is not the case. As a matter of fact, it got so bad that Eric was seeking the legal process to get them to stop promoting this wallet. Then a couple days go by, and now he makes the announcement saying that we're going to integrate Trump Coin into our DeFi activities. We're going to get a substantial amount of it, and I also hear they plan on using it as a form of treasury, right? So that's a very interesting turn of events. The reason this has my attention, though, is because this is the first time we've had an administration that is this tied to crypto. And it's not tied in the sense of directly trying to profit, despite what some may say. They're actually exploring the innovations and the use cases around blockchain technology. Eric was at the Bitcoin conference 2025, guys. And I like what he had to say during his speech. It's primarily about Bitcoin, but he emphasizes a very, very important point here. It centers around a supply shock, as they call it, for Bitcoin. When you take a look at how much Bitcoin is left, essentially, it's roughly 5%. It's only 5% left. 19.8 million, if I'm not mistaken, out of 21 million is already in circulation. And now we are at a point in the market where not only do we have enterprise interests, not only do we have government interests, but we also have corporate interest in Bitcoin, which is leading to a lot more companies buying Bitcoin as a store of value on their balance sheet. MicroStrategy just bought another 1,053 Bitcoin this morning. So let's jump to the clip of what Eric had to say at the Bitcoin conference, and then we'll get right back.
All of us travel all over the world. Don and I travel hundreds of thousands of miles a year. I'm telling you right now, everybody in the world wants Bitcoin. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're, royal families. I don't care if you're the biggest, financial institutions. Everybody wants Bitcoin. Everybody is buying Bitcoin. If you go back 12 months, there were probably less than 100 companies that were treasuring Bitcoin that really had any. And now every single day, it's another sovereign wealth fund. Look what GameStop just did. Look what Truth Social did. Every single day, people are allocating billions and billions of dollars to it. 0.1 Bitcoin is going to be worth an absolute fortune. And, look at the OTCs. The OTCs have the least amount of Bitcoin ever on their books, right? I mean, the arrow's going straight down as the price of Bitcoin is going straight up. I've got a dear friend. He spoke on the stage before, Simon from Metaplan, and I asked him, what's the hardest problem? And he goes, honestly, we're running out of Bitcoin. It's hard to find on the exchanges. I mean, guys, everybody wants it. No one wants to get rid of it. Everybody wants it as a balance sheet item. Every family, and this isn't America. This is the entire Middle East. This is Africa. This is all of Asia. This is Fortune 500. I mean, this is the biggest private offices. Everybody wants it. No one wants to get rid of it, and it's incredibly powerful. And I think you're going to see the value skyrocket. So don't be afraid of the integer. You don't need to buy things in whole integers. You can buy things in fractions of integers. And I think that's actually how Satoshi designed the system, to actually be designed to buy in fractions of integers. We just are so early to the game.
So I love that perspective. And the point he made about OTC desk not having enough Bitcoin, that's important. That's very important. If you don't know, OTC desk, this is over the counter. This is how large companies like Strategy, for example, buy their Bitcoin. It's not directly from an exchange, but it's straight over the counter. If the OTC desks don't have enough Bitcoin left, there's going to be a run on the exchanges for Bitcoin. Okay? Now, one, we've already pretty much proven by tracking our Elite 8 portfolio from 2023 that Bitcoin, having Bitcoin in your portfolio will keep you in profit. Okay? Outside of that, we just talked about how there's less than 5% of it left. There's literally a little bit over 1.5 million. Yes, a little bit over 1.5 million Bitcoin left. As a matter of fact, he mentioned Truth Social. They raised $2.3 billion for a Bitcoin reserve. That will equate to about 20,000 Bitcoin at the price that it is as of right now, 107,000. So that's only 20K. Then MicroStrategy, they just bought another 1,000, but they're planning to continue buying Bitcoin. Even though there are small amounts here and there, all we need is other companies to follow suit and to increase the frequency of those smaller buys. And then all of a sudden, we could be looking at 20 million Bitcoin left. Well, no, 1 million Bitcoin left by the end of 2030. Now, just looking at that, I could imagine that knowing that will extend this current bull cycle. People understand how scarce Bitcoin is becoming. That will drive more buyers. I believe that. So if that does happen, expect an extended bull market throughout this cycle, throughout this year specifically. And yes, I'll admit, coming in, I was bearish because I'm looking at a piece of data. It's right in front of me right now on my desk that says 2026 is going to be some very sketchy time. But with the activity that we're seeing from corporate players and members of our own administration, this serves Bitcoin very well. And it will also serve Bitcoin's price even better. And if Bitcoin's price is going up, then all of these other assets' prices are going to go up. So this is a win-win for everyone. Now, just so we don't miss it, I mean, go back to what Eric Trump said about the Trump meme coin and their new alliance with World Liberty Financial. So although their meme wallet isn't moving forward, they remain focused on building the most exciting meme on earth. Moreover, we're proud to announce that World Liberty Financial plans to acquire a substantial position in the meme coin for their long-term treasury. We share a bigger vision for crypto, patriotism, and long-term success. Stay tuned for more. So I really like what they're doing with Bitcoin. I like what the administration is doing for the blockchain space. You know, there will be actors involved that will have their own intentions. There's nothing we can do about that. But the fact that this man is keeping terms like digital assets, crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin on the minds of everyone here in the country, going forward is where that will have the biggest impact. So now, am I going to go out here and tell you to invest in these Trump coins and World Liberty Financial? No, I ain't going to say all that. But what I will do is report on the developments and the advancements that they make that help push the agenda forward. So that's the least that I can do, guys. And I will leave you with this because this is a thought that I got after reading all of this together. There's a lot of comparisons between gold and Bitcoin. Bitcoin being the new version of gold. Well, I kind of understand that. When you look at gold, gold was the store of value that emerged from the Industrial Revolution. Okay? Prior to that, yes, gold had a lot of utility. I know it's been around for thousands of years, but on a social level, the recognition of gold as a store of value truly increased after the Industrial Revolution. Give me that, right? For Bitcoin, it's the exact same thing for the internet revolution, the technological revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, if you want to call it that. Bitcoin is the digital gold in that sense, as it will be the store of value as these new technological advances spread throughout the internet. So when you look at it that way, is Bitcoin digital gold? Abso-freaking-lutely. And now big players like our president is starting to recognize that. Bitcoin is a financial instrument. You can use it as a store of value. You can use it as a hedge. And in a few years, thanks to the Lightning Network and various other integrations, we'll be able to build with it. This is just the beginning, folks. This is just the beginning. But let's jump forward, guys, and talk a little bit of blockchain games, starting with the Scale network. Now, Scale is a network that I have been very interested in for quite some time. Now, reason why I'm covering them is because I was fishing around DappRadar, looking at the 30-day rankings for some gaming networks, and the numbers for Scale network just blew my mind. So when we talk about gaming networks, Mutable, Scale, these will be the ones that I point you to. So if we look at Scale over the last year, yeah, it's been a bit bumpy, but I highlighted November 27th of last year when they were listed on BitHump. You'll notice before that listing, the price performance for Scale was pretty decent. All right. Getting up to as high as about 6 or 7 cent leading up to the listing. Obviously, they get listed on that pretty big exchange, BitHum, and people take profits. And they've been taking profits ever since. You can even see this as indications of shorting on the asset. So that is something that is out of our control, and it shouldn't really deter you from looking into gaming tokens, because as everything else in the blockchain world is building, so is the gaming sector. Okay. People think that it has died out. It's contrary to that is not the case. All right. So to the numbers that I was seeing on DApp Radar, Scale network metrics over the last 30 days compared to other blockchain networks. Right now, they're tracking about 18, which is something else too. The blockchain gaming market is so small, folks. So that truly means you only need a little bit, a little bit of exposure to be one of the first movers when it comes to the investing side. But take a look at the metrics rankings out of 18 networks. 30-day volume, Scale is at 8th. 30-day transactions, 2nd place. 30-day NFT transactions, 5th. Total value locked in the last 30 days, 3rd place. The most important one is the UAW over the last 30 days. This is unique active wallets. These are wallets that engage with the network on an active basis. So they're either playing games, staking, doing a number of things on the Scale network. They rank 3rd behind Binance and another network called Say. These two networks are giants, ladies and gentlemen, and Scale is right up under them. Above networks like Avalanche and Immutable X when it comes to gaming. So that was very impressive to me. When you look at how Scale is built, they specialize in gas-free blockchain gaming. And although they offer other services geared towards payments, staking, some DeFi activities, a little bit of AI, a lot of people have come to Scale for gaming. It has become the home to blockchain gaming. All the more reason why I pair it with Immutable X so often. Immutable is creating tools to bring gamers in. Scale is creating tools to keep gamers around. So it works both ways. It definitely does. Now, outside of the metrics, Scale has been on top of its business. It's been on top of its game going back a couple years now. When I first discovered the Scale network, it was because of data like this. Most active gaming chains. Scale is leading 230,000. This was from November of 2023 when the blockchain gaming space was truly on at the top of everyone's conversation. Additionally, when it comes to their metrics as a network, Dartmouth blockchain study that came out a couple years ago shows us that when it comes to transactions per second in a gaming environment, Scale has the advantage even over Solana. Now, I would love to see these metrics measured today because this particular blockchain, this Dartmouth research report was from 2022, if I'm not mistaken. But even still, Scale is a very interesting network because ever since their inception, they have been at the top of the leaderboards in various metrics and in various use cases. So when you take a look at Scale's network health, this is also very impressive, especially in the gaming space. This shows that all of the attention and energy that does go into the gaming sector, it's going directly to Scale first. It is. So I like to see the competition between Scale and Immutable. It will only make both networks better, and it will improve blockchain gaming offerings in general. But for a network like Scale, and again, let's go back to this price point. For a network at this price point to be producing this type of data, 82 million transactions in the last 30 days, 56 million unique active wallets, 16 Scale chains. Yes, forgot to mention that too. Scale has its own subnet layer 2 parachain sort of architecture. For a network that small, this is pretty genius because networks like Avalanche, Polkadot, they didn't really kick on their parachains and layer 2 subnets until a little bit later after their origin. It was definitely in the plans, but it didn't go live right as they launched. Scale entered the market with this architecture. Another reason why I'm so impressed. Now, again, when it comes to blockchain games, guys, we are definitely looking at the long game here. Definitely looking at the long game. So when I look for blockchain gaming assets, I'm definitely looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the data, specifically unique active wallets, because that number indicates players, people who have come to the network to engage with the network, transact on the network. That's a lot. That's a more impactful metric as well, too, than the number of payments processed on a particular network, right? A network can process a heap ton of payments. That's true. But when you're dealing with active wallet participation, that's keeping value within your network as opposed to sending and receiving. So, of course, this is just my 2 cents on scale. You guys see, I'm trying to cover more aspects of the industry. And every time I look into the gaming side, this is where I end up, either here or Immutable X. So, very impressive. Like I said, I'm putting together my portfolio for this upcoming cycle for the next couple of years using the new strategies that I've learned for portfolio construction. And when it comes to the gaming side, I got my eye on 2 assets, and scale is definitely one of them. Definitely one of them. But with that, guys, let's move forward to our main event. Okay. Our main story here. I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly. But Hashdex and the NASDAQ US crypto ETF has filed with the SEC. This filing will allow them to directly invest in digital assets like XLM, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. Now, this proposal was put forth Friday, if I'm not mistaken, but this is an extension of what they initially put forth to the SEC back in March. This is a proposed rule change that will allow them to not only be governed by the commodity-backed trust rules, but it will include digital assets as well. Because the only reason that they can hold Bitcoin and Ethereum directly is because, as it stands right now, they are commodities. Just those two. I know a lot of people in the XRP army will argue me down, will argue me to the ends of the earth on that note, but on paper, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only 2 commodities. They are proposing a rule that will allow them to include digital assets into their governing rules. So there'll still be the commodities backed stocks involved, or the commodity backed rule, but they will also be able to abide by the digital asset rule. That digital asset rule will allow this Hashdex ETF to, as it does with Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, invest directly into Stellar, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. Now, I'm not saying that that is going to have a monumental impact on the price, but what it does, it brings in more institutional interest. And if they can get a rule change like that over the SEC, you can guarantee other companies are going to follow suit. You can, and it will also show that the SEC is now beginning to change how they feel about the entire digital asset situation. So that opens the door definitely on the institutional side. And currently, I want to add this too. The problem is how they're doing it now. They're holding Bitcoin and ETH at particular weights to represent a holding of the altcoins. That is very risky because you can't fully guarantee that Bitcoin and Ethereum's price performance will match the performance of the other assets in the index. Solana could outperform both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and now your weights are off. They're looking to they propose this rule to address that problem. If the SEC approves that, we could see a new era of exchange traded funds centered around in-kind digital asset investments. In-kind means that it's not a dollar for dollar transaction. It is a dollar for crypto transaction. It is a fiat to crypto transaction, which opens the door for more opportunities for companies who specialize in crypto to fiat transactions. That's when the ETF market will begin to have a real impact, a positive impact on the space, because ETF issuers will then be able to directly invest in the assets that they want to build these ETFs around. And that's when the big money will come in. The real big money. All right. Now, I did look this up as well. This is the other holdings for the index, the other assets, like I mentioned, Cardano, Stellar, Litecoin, Chainlink, and Uniswap were the ones that I didn't mention. But the SEC has until November to make a decision. If they make the decision, Hashdex will then be allowed to invest directly into Solana, XRP, Cardano, Stellar, Litecoin, Chainlink, and Uniswap. This will bring a lot of institutional attention directly to these assets first. And that's actually very fitting, the timeline here, because we have observed that October, Q1 of the federal fiscal year, tends to line up with when Bitcoin likes to have its pumps. The crypto market likes to have its pumps. We've done the math on this. If this news does hit in November, or we're entering October and we hear rumors that they're going to approve this, I guarantee you all 9 of these assets are going to pump, including Litecoin. Yeah, Litecoin, right? Don't nobody sleep on Litecoin, folks. But what I see happening here is they get this rule change through with the SEC, and it's going to cause a domino effect in other ETF issuers, because now we're not playing the cash create ETF game anymore. We're playing the in-kind ETF game, which means there will be direct institutional investment into these digital assets. So we need to be rooting for Hashdex. We need to be rooting for Hashdex. Now, like I said, guys, before we get out of here, I said this earlier, crypto ETFs are an easy way for you to enter crypto, the easiest way for you to get involved. And now that the tone might change towards ETF issuers being able to directly invest in these digital assets, that will make incoming investors a lot more comfortable knowing that even though they're investing in an index ETF that is supposed to represent the value of these digital assets, they know that it's actually holding the digital assets that the value is supposed to represent. That would make that a product, that investing vehicle, a lot more attractive, in my humble opinion. So with that, guys, of course, don't forget to check out the official DHN Research library. Pick up all the educational content you need to be a master at the blockchain space. And other ways to support the channel. If you need a crypto exchange, I'm going to point you to Uphold. If you're looking for a hardware wallet, SafePal is your guy. And if you're a trader and you want to add an AI edge to your analysis, look into Intellectia AI. And then at the end of the day, folks, if you want to rock the swag, yeah, we got the merch section going as well. I got a pair of these joggers on the way. I know it's the summertime. I don't care. I'm rocking them jimmies. All right. They embroidered. Okay. Are you serious? I got my last embroidered hoodie The one that says if the money is digital, so is the hustle. I've watched that sucker several times. It ain't faded. The stitching ain't came out. Listen, Spring, Teespring, y'all doing some things, man. They changing the game for YouTube merch. But with that, that's all I got for this one. Again, I hope you had a blessed weekend. And if you made it to the end of the show, drop DHN down in the comments so that I know who's rocking with the kid. And with that, y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.